Hi, this video is about what to look out for in an abusive relationship. There are many, it's often said that it's very easy to get into an abusive relationship, and for many people out there, they may think that getting into an abusive relationship is something that would never happen to them. I also thought that, it wouldn't happen to me either. I thought only people that were weak or stupid or something like this would find themselves in that relationship and unable to get out of it. And I never dreamt that it would happen to me. And from my own experience, I understand that it doesn't matter how smart you are or how strong you are. It can really happen to anyone, particularly if you're not so aware of all the elements of an abusive relationship and some of those signs. So what I wanted to do was make this video talking about some of the 10 main signs to look out for when you start a relationship or when you're in a relationship, particularly at the beginning, to make sure that you're really aware and you can identify very quickly and very early on if there are elements that are in fact abusive or could become abusive, or at the very least unhealthy. So you're going into that relationship or that dating with your eyes wide open and really thinking about it as you're going through. Is this right for me? Is this okay? And so on. These things individually are not, if you see them or recognize them, it doesn't mean that you're in an abusive relationship. It just signals of, that it could be, and that these are areas of concern. And certainly if you have a lot of these together, then it really is a very big red flag, that it might in fact be very unhealthy or worse, abusive. So let's start. Number one is an intense start. So this is when you end up seeing this person very often in a very short period of time, in the early stages of your relationship. For me, I think I saw my abuser like 9 times out of 12 days or something like this. We were both unemployed at the time, and it just seemed, it was just nice to have that company, and we got on really well, and it was like, okay, so let's do something tomorrow, and let's do something tomorrow. And I think it came as much from me as it did her, but it's definitely not a good way to start off in a relationship, and it could be a big sign of that it could be abusive in the future. Those abusive relationships rely on the fact that you don't have time on your own to think for yourself in between dates, and you get caught up in the excitement of it all. Again, not saying that if you're seeing your date so regularly that it is abusive. It's just a big sign that it could be, and because that's what abusers do. Number 7 is their friends. So pay attention to their friends. Really, when you meet them, or even before you meet them, when you go on the first date, or second date, or third date, always ask about their friends. Who are their friends? Do they see them a lot? Listen to how they talk about their friends. Do they say it with a lot of warmth? Are they old friends? Do they also have new friends? Are those friends mainly men? Are they mainly girls? If they're mainly men, then maybe their girlfriends. It's more difficult to make relationships usually for women towards women. Men, it's easier because they usually find some sort of a level of attraction or other value in a relationship with the opposite sex. So really listen out to how they talk about their friends, who they are, how long they've known them, and then when you meet them again, really talk to their friends, find out about their relationship together, and it'll give you a lot of insights into their character. My abuser, she actually she didn't have that many friends when I met her. There were like 2 or 3 friends that were from her childhood, and they had slightly different lives. Like one of them was married with a kid, and she didn't really see her at all. It was all on the phone. Another one was a guy that she was very close to, and actually he was just a genuinely lovely guy. And then the other group of girls that she had, she sort of didn't see them that much. I remember during a lot of the relationships, she didn't see her friends much at all. And actually, I think even 6 months in, she fell out of the group of girls that she was most friendly with. And then towards the end, almost had no friends. So it's always good to understand who their friends are, their friends at work, etc., how they talk about people, if it's love-hate with their friends, they've been wronging them at different times, if I used to like them or I don't anymore, or I didn't like them before and I do now. Just pay attention to those sorts of signs, thoughts. Okay, number 3 is your friends. So introduce them to your friends as early as possible. It's really important with any date that you have, and basically introduce them to one that's really honest, one that's really going to tell you what they think about them, and your friends can sort of talk to them and then ask them afterwards, what did you think? What did you really think? And then find out, did they seem interested in your friends? Did they tell your friends anything unusual or anything different that you weren't aware of? Did your friends get a good sense of feeling for them? Your friends will be sort of completely distanced from how you feel towards them as a potential partner, and they will see them more as an individual, and they will provide a lot of different angles and viewpoints based on their own upbringing, etc., and their own experiences. And so having their knowledge and their opinion is hugely valuable in determining how, if that person has any potential red flags or not that you might not have been aware of or chose to ignore. And then really try and get their honest feedback. Really say, look, please, it would be really helpful for me if you really just give me your honest thoughts. And that's why it's important to really try and get that from the people that will be honest, rather than the ones that just want you to be happy and don't want to rock the boat and don't want to say things negative that might upset you. You need to really remove that barrier and make them feel comfortable to really share their thoughts. You don't have to agree with it, but it certainly will open your eyes and make you aware of that, and then you can decide to dismiss it or accept it from that point onwards. Number 4 is unusual reactions. So I remember very early on in my dating experience with my abuser, there were some very unusual reactions to certain things. I remember after 3 weeks of dating, we would, I can't exactly remember what the situation was, but she got really upset with me about something, and I thought, I know for sure I've done nothing wrong, like for sure, and this response is way over the top. And then the argument was way too long about really nothing, and that really should have been a big red flag for me, and for me to say, look, this isn't what I want. this isn't a sign for things to come, I'm sorry, we need to end it. So really be aware of anything that's unusual, that you wouldn't expect, that's over the top, and really pay attention to that. I think another example is after I think 5, 6, 7 dates, I asked her I was paying for everything all the time, so I asked her and I said, look, I notice I'm paying for everything after, for quite some time now. How come you've never offered to pay or contribute? And she burst into tears and was so embarrassed and told me this sob story of that she can't believe I said it, and that's so upsetting for her, and maybe she should end it right now. And you can see this is really, really dramatic and very unusual reaction. And it was a very fair question, and said in a very fair way. And I was made to feel like I'd done something terribly wrong. And she was so sensitive to that. So really be aware of anything that is an unusual, over the top, exaggerated reaction that is not normal. Number 5 is you protecting them. Be aware when you are protecting them. Be really aware. Why? Ask yourself, okay, I noticed that I was doing that. I noticed that I was trying to convince my friends this, that, and the other. Why am I doing that? Is it really correct? Is it true? Should I be doing this? And that protection is or that how would you say that that need to protect them. Really need to understand what's behind that. Because it may well be that those are big red flags that you are blinding yourself to for biases that you may not be aware of in yourself. So really be aware when you're protecting, or when you feel like you're protecting someone, particularly surrounding the person you're dating. Maybe even ask a very close friend of yours to say, look, if you ever find me defending this person, really make it aware to me, because I'm not so aware of it myself when I do it. And that way maybe you can get a bit more of a mirror shown in your face when you're doing it, so you can really recognize that and try and understand it. Number 6 is arguments. And I don't mean, like having lots of arguments. The likelihood is, like with an abusive relationship, that person, that abuser, will never show themselves as an abuser for many months, 6 months, even a year. It will take time for them to start showing themselves. But what I mean by arguments is there will be certain disagreements that come up during that time, the first few weeks, the first month, the first 6 months. Really pay attention to what those disagreements are. Think about how they came about. What are they about? How often are they? Why did they happen? How is it communicated? With my abuser, all of these arguments started after 3 weeks with that disagreement in the car. And like I said, it was very strange, it was very long, and it was unusual. And as sort of the disagreements continued, it was the way that she spoke, and it was deemed like a cultural thing. That's what I put it down to, because she was from a different country, she was born in a different country to me, that she was very aggressive and very loud. And I said, look, there are different ways you can communicate when you argue. And actually she did start to change how she communicated. But really be aware of defending those arguments like I did, saying, oh, it's cultural, oh, she didn't mean it, oh, she had a bad upbringing, she did this, she had that, I know she has issues with this. These are not necessarily excuses, and this is again you protecting them and you blinding yourself from what might well be the reality. So really think about those arguments, talk to your friends about them, really say, look, we kind of had a disagreement last night. I found it a bit strange about this, that and the other. It was long, it didn't really make sense. There was, etc., etc. And get their feedback. Really, really think about it yourself, because it might be a big sign of things to come and lead into something more abusive. Number 7 is money. Money is a big thing with abuse. Abuse is usually around or focused around control. So in terms of money, the abuser, like mine for example, didn't offer to pay for the first, at all in the first, I think 7 or 8 times, to which point I asked. Even throughout the relationship, it continued on, and she never paid. She maybe paid the tip occasionally after a year. You may think this is mad, and why would you do that? Why would you be in a relationship like that? But my abuser told me some sort of story from the past about how people had stolen money from her, how her debts were so big, how I could never talk about money with her again, or she'd leave, and her exes treated her differently with money. So really be aware of issues to do with money, which are not normal and which you're not comfortable with. Money is a very delicate thing, but be strong with what you need and who you want in your life regarding money, whether you want them to be an equal partner, whether you want them to contribute, whether you want them to just be relaxed about it, even if they don't. Mine was hugely sensitive, and every time money was mentioned, she went crazy about it. And actually it got to the point when I needed some work, renovation or some insurance money for something, and because she helped me with that, she felt a sense of entitlement eventually to that money. And the money thing is also a little bit confusing, because my abuser would always tell me how honest she was with money, and how she saw karma as a big thing, so she always had to do things right with people, or karma will come and get her. So she always had to, always telling me and herself, always showing this picture of she was, doing everything as a model citizen. I remember going to the supermarket and buying cucumbers, and they put it down, or courgettes, and they charged us as cucumbers, and the courgettes, they basically charged us less money than they should have, something like 50 cents or something, like a nothing amount. And she insisted on going back to say, look, you charged us for cucumbers, and they're meant to be courgettes. You need to charge us another 50 cents or another $1 or whatever it was, a very small amount. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, it's so honest, so kind of her, so nice of her. It's amazing that she does that. And this is all part of an act. So really be aware of anything to do with money that's a bit unusual. Don't buy into what you want to buy into. Really try and see the full picture with things, and because it could be a big sign of abuse to come, or at best a very unhealthy relationship. Number 8 is this victim mentality. So abusers have a wonderful way of finding, basically they especially if they're narcissistic, they really want people who are kind of rescuers or helpers, and they'll leave a lot of bait out for a lot of different people that will help them to find a partner that is best suitable for them, that's going to take that abuse. Because the people who want to rescue an abuser, they want to help people as much as possible, and you'll never be able to fully help an abuser. There will always be problems. It'll be unlimited problems for you to solve, And for me, it was a challenge. It was oh, I'll help her with this and I'll help her with that, and she really needs me because I'm always helping her, etc., etc. And eventually get burnt out from that. You can't help them anymore. It's too many things to solve, and it's impossible. It's like a leaking bucket. But the victim mentality is really the starting point from that. That is the first point on the map, and that is the bait. And basically, victim mentality is when they come up with a story, a sob story about the past, about their friends, about their life, about their childhood, about money issues, about their job, anything that they have where they have an issue, a problem, and they're waiting for you to say, oh, I'll help you with that, I can help you with that. They want to see people, they want to find people that can help them with their issues, with their problems. So they'll leave out, these little breadcrumbs of problems that they have, and maybe they'll do small ones at the start and then grow them into bigger ones to see if, you're the one that can help them, to rescue them, because that is like a moth to a flame for them. They love people that will help them. So really be aware of that bait, of that victim mentality, those victim stories, those bad luck stories that come up. It could be a really strong sign that this is someone who's narcissistic, abusive, and it could be a very unhealthy relationship. Number 9 is red flags. Be aware of red flags. They're really important. Don't be in a relationship or dating trying to look for them all the time and trying to evaluate and trying to, oh, did she do that? Did she do this? Oh, did she do this? Is that a red flag? Did she do that? Don't look for them. Just be aware of them. So be aware of yourself in that situation. So when you go on a date, if she doesn't pay the bill after the 4th or 5th time, just be like, okay, that's interesting, noted that. Might be a red flag. If she talks about her friends and gives some sob story, okay, that's a red flag, potentially. Let me just, think about that, hold on to that, I'm aware of that as a potential red flag. Something doesn't feel comfortable for you, culture-wise, how they talk, how they argue, how they communicate. All the things that just make you think, oh, not sure if that's, something that I want, something that's good for me. And a red flag, really be aware of it, really sort of understand it, maybe ask about it later on, and see, if there are lots of these red flags coming up, really think, okay, is this right for me? Don't think, oh, I want them to like me. Think, are they right for me? And these red flags will really help you to understand that. Number 10 and the final one is their exes. This is really important to understand, if their relationship with their exes, how they talk about their exes, if they're still on good terms with them, if you I don't know, I don't think you could probably talk to them, but you could certainly maybe talk to some of their friends if you have some of the same circle of friends. You could ask how long they were dating, why they broke up. You'll probably get a different story to the truth, but you can sort of really listen to it and try and see if there are any things that are slightly unusual. My abuser, I think maybe the way to look at it is, I suppose everyone talks in different ways about their exes, but if they talk differently to how you would talk about your exes, then I think that's something to really be aware of and think, okay, is that okay? Is that okay for me that they talk in a slightly different way? Is that normal? Talk to your friends about that. With me, easily I could message an ex and just ask how they are, and they'll reply back, and that'll be the end of it. But you know, I know that I have a good relationship and a good friendship with those exes, or not friendship, but good. It was left on very good terms. So it's very easy for me to do that. And so if they find themselves or seem to reveal that, you know, they would never talk to their ex again, or their ex did something terrible, or their ex is I don't know, I don't know, but just listen carefully about how they talk about their exes, and it could be very revealing, very revealing. So those are basically the 10 things to look out for at the start of a relationship, and by the start it could be the first 3 months of the relationship, to really give you an idea of the signs of abuse that may develop into abuse later on, and really think throughout, you know, is this the right relationship for me? Am I just trying to defend them? Am I trying to see this through rose-tinted glasses? What do my friends think about it? Use your friends as much as possible. Talk to them, ask them if there's anything that you're unsure about. Really look for the honesty. Really look from a how would you say, looking down, a bird's eye view. Obviously, you don't want to be over-evaluating and really looking out for things, but be aware of these signs, so that when they do come up, you recognize them. Oh, that's this. That's interesting, and that's that. Okay, that's interesting. You know, even a month into a relationship, watch this video again. See if there's anything in this video that you think might be relevant to your relationship, because there might be signs there of abuse that you weren't aware of or you forgot about. Again, just because they have 1 or 2 of these things doesn't necessarily mean it's abusive. But these are just some of the signs, and if you have all of them together, it could well be a very abusive relationship to come. And one other thing, by the way, to do with their friends is also just how often they see their friends. Do they see them a lot? Do you go out and hang out with them a lot? With my abuser, we saw them a little bit, but she didn't seem that close to them. And then she completely stopped seeing them at all, and just sort of 1 or 2 here or there. And that was all within the first 2 or 3 months. So that's another way to look at the friendship circle of that they have. Those are the signs of abuse, and hopefully for you're able to just understand it and avoid that abusive relationship that might be coming your way, which I really hope doesn't. Like I said, it's very easy to get into an abusive relationship, and those abusers really keep the abuse very, very quiet throughout the relationship, but also they don't show that abuse to you for a good 6 months. So it's very difficult to spot, but these are some of the 10 signs. Thank you.